चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी भाष्यत्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Nectar of Instruction Bhakti Shastri course. Today we are going to begin with the discussion on text 3. Yesterday we completed text 2 discussion. The 6 items which are unfavorable for Bhakti. Bhakti Pratukul Shadgun. Now next Rupa Goswami discusses the 6 items which are favorable. उत्साहनिश्चया धैर्यात् तत्तत्कर्म प्रवर्तनात् संगत्यागात् शतो वृत्ते षड्भिर्भक्तिर प्रसिद्ध्यति. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Being enthusiastic, utsahan, endeavoring with confidence, nishchayat, being patient, dhairyat, acting according to regulative principles. So here Prabhupada in a square bracket, he is giving quite in detail what it means, following the angas of sadhana bhakti, that is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam. So the Navvida bhakti he is quoting. So the square bracket means there is difference in the square bracket and a round bracket. Prabhupada uses this in 2.16 also in the Bhagavad Gita. So when a square bracket is utilized, it means that the author is explaining something which is not there even in the original text. Sometimes somebody goes to Rome and then there is a description that he's in Rome, and in that place it refers to Rome, but you might write it in a round bracket, that is Rome. So that is where round bracket is used. But square bracket has the deeper significance that what is not mentioned even in the verse, the author emphatically describes what exactly it is, and that is why a square bracket is used. So here Prabhupada in the square bracket gives the Navida Bhakti as per Prahlad Maharaj definition. And as per Rupa Goswami, it is the 64 Angas of Sadhana Bhakti. So in that 64 Angas, there are 5 important Angas we know. So in one sense, our Sadhana Bhakti is 5 into 9 into 64. So there are 5 important limbs. Then there are the 9 limbs of devotion as per Prahlad Maharaj. And then there are 64 limbs of devotion which Rupa Goswami gives in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is acting according to regulative principles. Tat tat karma pravartana. That's the meaning of tat tat karma pravartana. Then abandoning the association of non-devotees, sangatyagat, and following in the footsteps of previous acharya, shato vritti. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Shadbir bhaktir prasidati. Siddhati means success. Prasidati is being used. Prasidati means it's a pra is a prefix. Prakrishripena siddhati means complete success. That's how Prabhupada, siddhati is success, but Prabhupada is using prasidhati, complete success, or perfectly be successful if you have these 6 principles, if you execute in our practice of devotional service. So this is the text. Now coming back to again Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis of what text 5 is, we have seen how Madhyamadikari Goswami's external readings and Bhakti rules are followed in text 2 to 4. And in that, text 3 is Bhakti Anukul Shadgun. Text 2 spoke about Bhakti Pratigul Shadgun. Text 3 is now speaking about Bhakti Anukul Shadgun. The do's are in text 3, the don'ts are the text 2. So this is what the verse is dealing with, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. Now, these are the various themes in the purport. Prabhupada in paragraph 1 to 4 explains the process of bhakti. And then paragraphs 5 to 7, he discusses utsaha. Nishchaya and dhairyat he discusses in paragraph 8 together. Tat tat karma pravartanat in text paragraph 9. Sangatyaga 10. Shato vritti 11. 12 to 17 is the Anuvritti explanation of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then Prabhupada in paragraph 18 concludes. So this is how the various themes are there. So now let us go to the first theme. The first theme. Now, although this verse is speaking about these 6 items of which are favorable for pure devotional service, why does Prabhupada begin again his purport? Seems like abrupt. What is the reason he discusses about the process of bhakti? Anyone would like to say? Anyone? Prabhupada, instead of first directly discussing about utsaha, in 4 paragraphs, he discusses about the bhakti process. What is the reason Prabhupada is discussing in 4 paragraphs of the bhakti process? Yes, Pavana Bala Prabhuji. Where are you here? Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam Prabhu, and Dhanvat Pranam to all the devotees. Actually, the center point of all the discussion is the process of bhakti. So Prabhupada first he wanted to emphasize that process before, and how these 6 things will help to improve bhakti or Krishna consciousness. That's the reason probably he is starting with the process of bhakti first, and how these 6 steps can help to improve bhakti. That is what my understanding.
Yeah, quite close. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to try? Why is Prabhupada discussing about the process of bhakti before discussing utsaha? Yes, what Pavan Bal Govind Prabhu mentioned was very true, that first of all, bhakti has to be executed with enthusiasm. So first we need to know what is bhakti. Only when we know bhakti, then we can practice that bhakti with enthusiasm. And all the other, as Pavan Bal Prabhu mentioned, Govind Prabhu. So that's why Prabhupada first discusses what is bhakti first. First, let us understand what is bhakti. And that bhakti we should execute enthusiastically or with utsaha. So first he defines what is bhakti. Now this statement of Prabhupada is very, very profound. Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. So Prabhupada is straight hammering what is devotional service. He's just giving in one statement a definition which is going to the core of it. What is the core of bhakti? It's not a matter of sentimental speculation that you sit in an armchair and start speaking about bhakti, like a professor. Or it is not like an imaginative ecstasy that next day morning, you wake up a devotee, you tell Prabhu, come for a Mangalarti, and he will tell, what happened today early morning in my dream. I was dreaming about Radha Krishna and I was seeing these wonderful pastimes. So I am feeling great ecstasy. You all go and attend Mangalarti. This is all meant for neophytes. I will just lie down here and, be in my imaginations of all these, wonderful pastimes. So this kind of, things, what one might consider, Prabhupada is straight he's hammering in his purport, in his statement here. So this is what the Sahajiyas do, imaginative ecstasy. They try to imitate Krishna's activities, that they are also practicing Raganuga Bhakti and they are having access to the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And the Gyanis, they speculate about Krishna. So that's why Prabhupada says its substance is practical activity. Bhakti means, Prabhupada translates as devotional service. So Prabhupada's definition is very, very concise and precise. Devotional service. If you have devotion or if you have love, how is that love expressed? It is in service. Suppose the mother tells the son that, I love you, my son. But the son or the kid is crying in the night. And she says, oh, let him cry. No, she will get up and she will serve the kid. So there is service. So similarly, Prabhupada mentions bhakti means practical activity, service. And then he goes on to define Srila Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. Now, I have in my slides defined this. Anya vilashita shunyam dhyana karmadhyanavritam anukulena krishnanu Sheelanam Bhaktiruttama. So this translation again is Vishwanath Thakur's translation. And we will, when we study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we will study this verse. So we need at least 1 hour to explain what this verse is. So we will not do that now. But just we'll precisely understand what this verse is speaking. The highest bhakti, Bhakti Ruttama, is defined as continuous service or emotions. Anushilanam means continuous service. So continuous service will be in sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti, we should engage the senses in Krishna service. In bhava bhakti, there is emotions also involved. Bhav. So that is why he's saying or emotions here. directed towards Krishna, his expansion forms, or others related to him. So that is the meaning of Krishna. So Krishna refers to Krishna, his expansions like Vishnu, Matsya, Vara, all, and others related to him refer to the spiritual master, the cow, Ashwata, all these. This is called as Tadiya Seva. So all this fit in the definition of Krishna. But how it should be executed? With a pleasing attitude towards Krishna, Anukulena. And it should be devoid of desires other than the desire to please the Lord. Anya abhilashita shunyam. No other desire except the desire to please the Lord. So that is the definition of anya abhilashita shunyam. And unobstructed by impersonal gyan and materialistic rituals of karma or other favorable acts. Jnana karamadya anavritam. So we should not practice bhakti with the aim to attain impersonal Brahman or with the aim to attain the fruits of our actions, karma. So that's how it should be free. And Adi refers to, we should free from also mystic yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Sankhya yoga. Adi refers to all that. So this is how pure devotion Rupa Goswami defines in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I will not go into detail about this, but when we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we will that time study. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada focuses on only one term in this definition, that is Anushilanam. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation as some pseudo-yogis teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service. For this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. So instead of doing materialistic activities, at least if you're sitting idle and meditating, that is better. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional activities. So Prabhupada in the second paragraph explains about activities. So there are three types of activities. The negative aspect is material activities. All these activities lead to suffering. The neutral aspect is ideal meditation. At least there is stop of nonsensical activities that lead to suffering. But the positive activities are devotional activities. These are meaningful devotional activities that lead to the spiritual world. So Anushilamam, Prabhupada explains these three different types of activities. And then Prabhupada goes on to define devotional service. Now, yesterday we were discussing about the transcendental knowledge. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Iti Pumsarpitam Vishnu, Bhaktischa Navalakshana, Kriyate Adhya, Tanmay Aditam Matam. Something like that, it is lifeline. Aditam means knowledge. I think this is knowledge. What is it? The 9 limbs. So the 9 limbs of devotion speak about transcendental knowledge. This is what we have to cultivate. So Prabhupada goes on to in detail give these 9 limbs. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada explains about Shravanam, hearing. Among the 9 limbs, Shravanam is the most important. It's the first step in acquiring transcendental knowledge. We have to hear. Tat Shunu, Bhagavad Gita 7.1, first verse, when Krishna speaks to Arjuna, he says, Maya Saktamana Partha, Yogam Yunjan Madashaya, Asamshayam Samagramam, Tata gyasasi tachshunu. Tachshunu means just hear from me directly. So to hear directly from Krishna or from his pure devotees is the beginning of devotional service. And Prabhupada then says that how one should approach a proper bona fide spiritual master and hear him. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So one should approach a spiritual master. He is a jnaninas. He is having realized knowledge. And tattvadarshina. Tattvadarshina means he has seen the truth. That means he has realized the truth in his spiritual vision. And to such a spiritual master, pranipata, you should approach him and offer respectful obeisances, dandavat, prakrishvipana nipata. Just like a rod falls down, if you leave it, you should fall down at such a spiritual master. Pariprashnina. Pariprashnina means to inquire submissively. And sevaya. Sevaya means we have to render service. And upadikshanti te jnanam. So here again the definition of diksha is what? Giving transcendental knowledge. Upadikshanti. Diksha. Diksha means to give transcendental knowledge. Te jnanam. They give that knowledge because they already have realized that knowledge. Jnaninas. They have realized knowledge within themselves. So that's why they can give this transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada refers to this verse for that. Then Prabhupada in the next paragraph refers the Mandukya Upanishads. Tad Vijnanartham sa gurum eva vigachet. Eva. Samitmani shrotriyam brahma nishtam. Tad Vijnanartham. If you want to realize the absolute truth, Sa Gurum, you have to go to a spiritual master. Eva. Eva means certainly. Avigachet means you have to go there. And how you have to approach him? Samit Pani. Samit Pani means in the traditional times, the disciple used to carry the firewood because firewood is to be used in yagyas. So he used to do menial service to the spiritual master by carrying the firewood and approaching the spiritual master. Shrotriyam. Shrotriyam means he has heard the transcendental sound of the Vedas and he has realized the conclusions of the Vedas. Brahmanishtam. Brahmanishtam means he has realized these conclusions. Thus, this method of submissively receiving transcendental confidential knowledge is not merely based on mental speculation. So, Prabhupada is substantiating his statement about this first statement. It is not sentimental speculation or mental speculation. It is approaching a realized spiritual master and hearing from him. Now, in the next statement, Prabhupada quotes Chaitanya Charitamrita, this verse: Brahmande Brahmite kono bhagyavan jeev, Guru Krishna prasade paye, bhakti lata bij. In the course of traversing the universal creation of Brahma, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of bhakti lata, the creeper of devotion service. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna. Guru Krishna prasade paye, bhakti lata. Now, why is Prabhupada quoting this is very interesting, because he will lay the background of why we should take up this devotion with utsaha. So he says the material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature anandamaya, pleasure seeking. They actually want to be free from the confinement of this world of conditional happiness. But not knowing the process of liberation, they are bound to transmigrate from one species of life to another, from one planet to another. Brahmande Brahmite. Brahman means to wander. And we are being wandering within this universe from one species to another species, from one planet to another planet. Sometimes we are in the heavenly planets, sometimes we are in the hellish planets, based on our pious and sinful activities. And when Mahavishnu annihilates these universes, again, we go back in the body of Mahavishnu And when he inhales, exhales, again we come into one of the universes. So we have been traveling not only from one planet to one species in this universe, we have been wandering from one Brahmanda to another Brahmanda. In this way, the living entities are wandering throughout the material universes. When by good fortune one comes in contact with a pure devotee and hears from him patiently, one begins to follow the path of devotional service. Such an opportunity is offered to a person who is sincere. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one takes advantage of this opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens. So this is how our fortune has opened. We have been wandering in many species of life, in many planets, in many universes, in searching for happiness, true happiness. And when we try to attain happiness in this material world and all our attempts are futile, we become frustrated and we are sincerely seeking, why am I here? What is the purpose of this creation? Why I have to suffer, although I want to enjoy? These kind of inquiries, when we start making, the Lord is there in the heart. Krishna in the form of Chaitya Guru or the Paramatma. And he directs us to a spiritual master, Guru Krishna Prasade. And when we come in touch with a spiritual master, that time the bhakti impressions are imprinted in our heart. So we get the Bhakti Lata Beej. So when we get this opportunity to now get out of this material world to the spiritual world where there is Anandamayo Bhyasa, there is only pleasure, which we have been seeking. So we should accept this opportunity with enthusiasm. That's how Prabhupada, from next paragraph onwards, starts speaking about Utsaha. So he has laid the background in 4 paragraphs, defining what is Bhakti, definition of Bhakti, cultivation, Anushilnam, and for that we have to hear from the spiritual master, and that fortune comes when we meet a spiritual master. By the mercy of the spiritual master in Krishna, we get the Bhakti Lata Beej. And when we get this Bhakti Lata Beej, we should accept this process of bhakti very, very enthusiastically. So now let us discuss this next theme, that is Utsaha, paragraphs 5 to 7. One should accept this opportunity to return home, back to Godhead, very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action, but action for whom? The answer is one should always act for Krishna. Krishnartha Akila Cheshta. So he is quoting this, one of the limbs of sadhana bhakti, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting to Sanatana Goswami in Sanatana Shiksha in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Krishnartha Akila Cheshta Tat Kripa Avalokana Janma Dinadi Mahotsava Lan Bhaktagan. So there is one limb, that is one should perform all endeavors for Krishna. One should look forward for his mercy. Tat Kripa Avalokana. So here 31st limb is Krishna Akilartha Cheshta. So what does enthusiasm mean? Enthusiasm means that we should be very, very enthusiastic to perform actions for Krishna's pleasure. So enthusiasm, in one sense, if you translate in English, it is love. Enthusiasm means love. Now we all know as devotees, when especially our spiritual master comes to our town where we reside to give some for a preaching tour, and somehow we have a relationship with the spiritual master, and the spiritual master is going to come to our house for having prasad. So we can see that we become very enthusiastic and we are very happy. So we very enthusiastically run about here and there, making all the arrangements. So that is exactly what is enthusiasm. So the object of love is Krishna, and initially we should be very, very enthusiastic, firstly, to take up this process of bhakti, of returning back to Godhead, and we should execute the actions of bhakti with enthusiasm or with love. So that is what is enthusiasm mean. Now, in the 9 stages of bhakti, we know that Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anarth Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. So these are the 9 stages which we go through. Initially, coming in touch with the sadhus, we develop Shraddha in them, and we associate with the sadhus. The sadhus give us instruction, and we begin Bhajan Kriya. We hear the discourses and then take up to devotion. And we start following the regulative principles, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and following the 4 regulative principles. This is called as Bhajan Kriya. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Madhurya Kadambini, is a very classic book where he analyzes all these 9 stages of bhakti and mentions symptoms, how one goes through all these stages. So there, especially with respect to Bhajan Kriya, he explains that there are 6 different levels in Bhajan Kriya. And first of all, he says that there are 2 types of Bhajan Kriya: Anishtita Bhajan Kriya and Nishtita Bhajan Kriya. Anishtita Bhajan Kriya means that we are not steady in our bhajan. Anishtita. And Nishtita Bhajan Kriya means steady devotional service. So that is, Anishtita and Nishtita. And within Anishtita Bhajan Kriya, he says there are these 6 stages. The first is called as Utsamai. Utsamai. Second is Ghanatarala. Third is Vyuda Vikalpa. Fourth is Vishaya Sangara. Fifth is Niyamakshama. And 6th is Taranga Rangini. Now, among these 6 stages, the first is Utsamai. Rup Goswami has not said Utsamai, but he has said Utsaha, Utsahat or Utsahan. So there is a difference between Utsamai and Utsaha. Utsamai means it is a false enthusiasm. It's not real enthusiasm. This is just the beginning, a newfound, you have something just discovered, this process of bhakti. So you become very enthusiastic. And this is how all of us have experienced when we just first came into devotional service. We became very enthusiastic. And, when we used to go very enthusiastic to the temple, attend the program, take prasad, and all the devotees, we used to see them as pure devotees. And then if some devotee tells us some service, we'll runningly go and try to serve him. So this is the stage of what is called as Utsamai, or what is called as false enthusiasm. Now, this Utsamai stage is required. We also, in this stage, experience extreme mercy of Krishna. We feel like Krishna's mercy is flowing like an ocean or a river in my heart. And you feel that I've become already a pure devotee. So in the beginning stages, everyone thinks that now I've become a Krishna devotee, I've become a pure devotee. So this is Utsamaya stage. So slowly, with the period of time, that enthusiasm comes down, because it's not real enthusiasm, it's false enthusiasm. And why it comes down? Because the heart is not yet pure. So the enthusiasm comes down, and then the next stage, what Vishwanath Chakra Thakur mentions, is called as Ghana Tarala. Ghana means thick, Tarala means thin. So some days we have taken up to devotional service. We went to Vrindavan first time after attending the Bhagavad Gita course. Devotees took us to Vrindavan and we were excited. Wow, Vrindavan is such a wonderful place. So we feel a lot of devotion. And then when we come back, we decide now I was chanting only 4 rounds. I will chant 16 rounds every day. So first few days you chant 16 rounds, and the fifth day you can't even chant your 4 rounds. So your bhajan becomes what? Ghana. Ghana means thick, and then tarala. Again, this is because of the impurity in the heart. The heart is impure, and that's why you're unsteady in your devotion. Then the next stage is called as Vyuda Vikalpa. Vyuda Vikalpa. Vikalpa means resolution. Vyuda means you oscillate between one end to another end. You think maybe, I am in nicely situated in the Grahast ashram, but I want to attain perfection. Let me give up family life and go to Vrindavan and absorb chanting 64 rounds a day. And then you feel, oh, how can I leave my wife and children? I'm still attached to them. What about my parents, aging parents? So hearing the scriptures, your enthusiasm to practice devotion oscillates from one end to another end. You hear Bharat Maharaj pastime. Oh, as a king, he left his beautiful wife, children, and king, just like one leaves Malavat. One passes stool and doesn't look backside. And then he had so much attraction for the Lord that he left to the forest. So when you hear that, oh, maybe I should also, like Bharat Maharaj, follow in his footsteps. And then you say, no, I'm still not control my senses. What if I go to the forest? I might leave my wife and children, one wife and children, but I'll be carrying 6 wives, the 6 senses with me. So like that, he oscillates in his resolution to practice devotion. So this is called as Vyuda Vikalpa. In the next stage, this is called as Vishaya Sangara. Vishaya means sense object. Sangara means tussle, tug of war. Sometimes with practice of devotional service, he's able to control his senses. Sometimes he falls prey to sense objects. So like that, there is a battle going on within him. Then the next 5th stage is Niyama Shama. Niyama means rules. Ashama means not able to keep up one's vows. So he takes a vow in Kartik that I'll chant 64 rounds. 5 days he chants, then he's not able to keep up the vow because still the heart is not pure. He decides that I will not eat sweets in Kartik. Moment there is feast and his senses get agitated and he says, oh, today is a festival. Maybe today I can have it. That's how the mind will tell. And then he has it. So he's not able to maintain his vows. Vishaya Sangar means not able to control the senses. Niyakshama means not able to maintain the vows, what he takes. And then the last stage of Bhajan Kriya is called as Taranga Rangini. As he goes to these higher stages of Bhajan Kriya, this devotee also becomes attractive. Many devotees offer him obeisances, give him gifts, and he has got followers. And now he starts diving in these mellows like the ocean waves. Taranga means the ocean waves. So in these ocean waves, he starts diving in Puja La Pratishtha. And he is now attracted to the fringe benefits of bhakti, and he doesn't want to go deeper into bhakti. So this is also, with the practice of bhakti, we might become attracted to the fringe benefits of bhakti. So among these 6 stages of anishtita bhajan kriya is what is called as utsamayi, false enthusiasm. But Prabhupada is speaking, and Rupa Goswami is here speaking about utsa, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means doing actions for Krishna. So Prabhupada will later on define what is another definition of enthusiasm. I will take up that so that you are clear. Endeavor executed with intelligence is called, in Krishna consciousness, is called utsaha or enthusiasm. So this is the difference between utsaha and utsamai. In utsamai, a senior devotee tells you something without hearing, because the senses are not controlled. You partly hear and you go running. And instead of what he had asked for a glass of water, you get him a glass of milk. Because you do actions without using the intelligence. But utsaha means endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha. Prabhupada gives a very beautiful definition of utsaha. So here we have discussed about utsaha. Then Prabhupada in this paragraph, how we can do actions. Krishna Artha Akhila Chesta was mentioned. How these actions can be performed in bhakti. In order to attain perfection in bhakti, one has to perform devotional activities under the direction of the spiritual master in all phases of life. It is not that one has to confine or narrow one's activities. Krishna is all pervading. There is nothing, therefore, nothing is independent of Krishna, as Krishna himself states, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshu avastita. So I am pervading in my impersonal form. The entire universe is pervaded. Prabhupada then goes on to give example that how Krishna's energy is everywhere pervading. He gives the example of the dictaphone. The material, the dictaphone might be never thought of used by Prabhupada for Krishna service. You know, it must be for businessmen or writers of mundane subject. But even the dictaphone can be used in Krishna service. And the dictaphone manufacturer, the intelligence is given by Krishna. The elements which the dictaphone is made of, they are the Bhumi, Apo, Anulavaya. They are all under Krishna's jurisdiction. The brain to design that complicated machine, Bhumi, Apo, Anulo, Kham, Manor, Buddhi, Raj. The Buddhi also is given by Krishna. So according to this statement, Prabhupada says, Matstani Sarva, everything is depending on my energy. So the devotee can understand how this whole world is the energy of Krishna and how to use the energy in the energetic service. For that, one has to be an expert. One has to be an expert to know how to use the energy in the service of the energetic. Thus, the devotee can understand that since nothing is independent of Krishna's energy, everything should be dovetailed in his service. Everything. So Prabhupada, famous pastime, you know, the first Rath Yatra, Prabhupada was walking in the corridor with one of the disciples and he saw a truck. And it was a flatbed truck. And Prabhupada asked his disciple about the truck. You know, he started asking a lot of information about the truck. And the disciple is wondering why Prabhupada is asking about a truck. So Prabhupada had seen the flatbed truck and he was, you know, thinking how this flatbed truck can be used as a pedestal or, you know, the asan, simhasan for having Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Rath. So the first Rath Yatra which was performed was the backside asan was the truck. So Prabhupada, everything what he saw it as the energy of the Lord and how it can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. So that was geniusness of Prabhupada, and that's why it requires expertise in trying to understand how everything is the energy of the Lord and how it has to be used in Krishna's service. So now, among the 4 regulative principles, one is no intoxication, alcohol. Now, can alcohol be used in Krishna's service? That's my question to you all. And if it is yes, tell me how you'll use alcohol in Krishna's service. This is quite an extreme example. Anyone, any thoughts? How expertly you can use alcohol in Krishna service? We are not supposed to take any intoxicants. How will you use alcohol? You cannot use. No, you can use.
Byproducts of alcohol can be used.
No, I'm speaking straight about alcohol. Yes, our Pavana Bala Govind Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. I have unmuted you.
I think you can use it as a solvent to clean some things. You can use it as a solvent.
Yes.
And methyl alcohol, you can use it as used for even keeping a lamp and all that, because methyl alcohol doesn't give a carbon deposit, so it can be used as a lamp. In our chemistry laboratory, we used to use methyl alcohol a lamp for heating things, because the heat of methyl alcohol lamp is very high and without carbon formation, so you can use it.
I'm speaking about the alcohol which is available in the liquor shops.
Of course, even that can be used probably for washing some of the dirt and all that. Because normally in laundry, they use either petrol or alcohol to dry wash some of the.
Oh, sorry. Somehow it got, yeah. Sorry. So, yeah, some of you have typed in the chat box, perfumes and sticks, scents made with alcohol. The most easiest way, one of the sannyasis told me that you can apply it as a antiseptic, like the Dettol you use. Suppose you don't have Dettol, then if there is some wound, you can apply it. But these are very rare instances. But the point what I was trying to make is there is expert way we can see how everything which is the energy of the Lord can be used in the Lord's service. That is the most important point. So once Prabhupada was, some Mayavadi sannyasis had come to meet Prabhupada. Prabhupada was not so keen, and he had a small discussion and sent them away. And they had come with their pamphlet, of their Mayavad philosophy. They distributed that pamphlet to all the disciples, and they left. And after they left, Prabhupada was distributing some dry prasad to all the disciples. Then immediately he said, "Get those pamphlets." And he got the pamphlets, and in the pamphlet, he gave this dry prasad to all the disciples. He said, "At least let that be used in Krishna service. It will be beneficial for them." So that's how so expert Prabhupada was, So that is an art, everything to use in Krishna service. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Uchate. So thus the devotee can understand that since nothing is independent of Krishna's energy, everything should be devoted in his service. So this is a great art. And as long as one is not highly mature, one cannot utilize everything in Krishna's service like this. That is why in the initial stages, one should do everything under the direction of the spiritual master. It's very important. Especially we know about the 12 alvars. One of the alvars, he wanted to build a temple, the wall of Ranganath temple. And what did he do? Nobody was ready to give donation. They were not charitable. So he engaged 4 thieves. And these 4 thieves, they looted all the money. And that money was utilized for building the temple. And ultimately, all these four thieves, by their own mystic powers, they were destroyed. And the Rangnath temple wall was built by this Alvar. Now, this Alvar could do it because he had that spiritual potency. Now, later on, building this huge temple complex, what was this Alvar doing? This Alvar was sitting there in the corner somewhere and making garlands for Rangnath. So he was so detached. So when we utilize the things in Krishna's service, there is every chance we will utilize those things for our own sense gratification. So that is why in the beginning stages, we should be very, very careful. We should do all under the direction of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada is saying, the devotee finds the correct means by which everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, Yukta Vairagya Muchate. You should practice Yukta Vairagya. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a Rolls-Royce car. Very polished car he had. And during that time, only two people had a car in India. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and one businessman in Calcutta. And he was wearing long suit and going out for preaching. He was trying to attract the intellectuals during that time who were attracted to the Western culture by the influence of the British. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was doing that because he was completely detached. So Yukta Vairagya. So this Yukta Vairagya principle is a very important principle. It is the most misunderstood principle in practicing devotees. Again, when we go to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that time we'll elaborately discuss what is this Yukta Vairagya. But Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe, everything we'll have to see in relation to Krishna and how it can be utilized. The execution of devotional service is not a matter of ideal meditation, but is a practical action in the foreground of spiritual life. So that's how Prabhupada discusses about. In the next paragraph, Prabhupada will discuss both Nishchaya and Dhairyat. If you have any questions about up till now what we discussed, any questions, any clarifications, you can raise your hand. Okay, so then we will take this one paragraph and wind up today a little early. These activities must be executed with patience. Utsaha means enthusiasm, and following Utsaha is Nishchaya and Dhairya. Dhairya is patience. Prabhupada translates Dhairya as patience, as far as I understand. Yeah, patience, Dhairya. And Dhairya also refers to Dheer. Dheer means one who is sober, and sober means one who has controlled his senses. So we might be enthusiastic and we might take up devotional service, and after 5 years, 10 years, the results are not coming. Back to Godhead looks like 1,000,000 miles away, and we start becoming impatient. And why do we become impatient? Because our senses are not controlled. That's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. Dhairya means Dhira. Dhira means one who has controlled his senses. Only one who has controlled his senses has patience. One whose senses are restless, he always becomes impatient. And Nishchayat. Nishchayat means confidence. Confidence in Krishna, confidence in the scriptures, that ultimately by practicing devotional service, I will attain perfection. So that is also confidence. So these two, Prabhupada briefly discusses in this paragraph, which I will take now. These activities must be executed with patience. One should not be impatient in Krishna consciousness. So I told you, impatience means adhira. Indeed, this Krishna conscious movement was started single-handedly, and in the beginning there was no response. But because we continue to execute our devotional activities with patience, people gradually began to understand the importance of this movement, and now they are eagerly participating. Can you imagine what kind of patience Prabhupada had? He started preaching as a Grahastha in India. And as a Grahastha also, he was vigorously preaching in India. But practically there were no results. Indians were too much attracted to the Western world. They were too much caught up in the whole independence movement, and they were not at all interested in spirituality. Prabhupada used to beg many of the grahasthas, please give me your son, one of your sons. I will train him in brahmacharya. They were not interested. So practically whole of his life, say from at least as a grahastha, Prabhupada was, I don't know at what age he met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he was 19, it was 1922, 1896. That is the age of 26. Prabhupada was preaching even that time also, before taking initiation also, and after taking initiation he was vigorously preaching. In fact, he was fully assisting the Gaudiya Math sannyasis in preaching. And after the Gaudiya Math broke, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left the world, Prabhupada established the Back to Godhead magazine single-handedly in 1944, and he himself was distributing the magazines personally, sitting in a cha shop. People come to drink chai in the hawker shop. There is to sit and ask someone to buy this BTG magazine. So he struggled a lot, but practically from 1944 till 1965, 44, 54, 64, 21 years, no results. And only one disciple, one Mr. Mishra. He started the League of Devotees in Jhansi, but that was a complete failure. Because of politics, that place was taken away from him. So he suffered many setbacks, but still Prabhupada was very, very patient because he was dhira. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So this is very important for us. This should be our attitude. The results don't come, we just depend on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both patience and confidence. And with this respect, Prabhupada gives an example. A newly married girl naturally expects offspring from her husband, but she cannot expect to have them immediately after marriage. Of course, as soon as she is married, she can attempt to get a child, but she must surrender to husband, confident that her child will develop and be born in due time. Similarly, in devotional service, surrender means one has to become confident. The devotee thinks, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. This is called confidence. So here Prabhupada gives a definition of confidence. Confidence means having faith in the 6 limbs of Sharanagati. Sharanagati has 6 limbs. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishe iti vishwaso, goptrutve varnam tata. Atmaniksha karpanya shadvidhi sharanagati. Anukulyasya sankalpa means executing devotional service and Krishna conscious activities that are favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And pratikulyasya varjanam means rejecting those which are not favorable for our development of Krishna consciousness, which are unfavorable. And rakshishe iti vishvaso. Here Prabhupada has mentioned avashya rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will protect me. If I'm doing devotional service, we should have faith and confidence in Krishna that Krishna will somehow protect me. And goptrutve varnam tata. Goptrutve varnam tata means Krishna is my guardian. Krishna is my maintainer. I should not worry about my food. Krishna will send. If I'm doing his service, Krishna will send. When the elephant is not serving the Lord, still Lord arranges for the elephant a ton of food, then why will he not arrange for his devotee who is serving the Lord? So that is a kind of faith we should have that Krishna is my maintainer and guardian. Atmanikshepa karpanya. One should surrender himself, and karpanya means one should have genuine humility. So these are 6 limbs, and in that Prabhupada is, with respect to confidence, speaking about avashya rakshibe Krishna. So only these two paragraphs, in this one paragraph, both patience and confidence Prabhupada has dealt. Now, in the next paragraph, Prabhupada speaks about Tatat Karma Pravartanat, and then he speaks about Sangatyag. And that will end Prabhupada's discussion, but this we will take up next week. Today we will have a short class because we have some other engagement. Today we have some other program. So we will stop here. Any questions, any clarifications regarding up till now what we discussed? Anyone has any clarifications? Okay, fine then. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Upadesha Amrit ki jai. Hare Krishna.